second on the other one. Okay, here we go. Hello everyone, this is the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and beside me here is Reverend Diane Silverhawk. And today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013, and tonight we're going to start on paper 25 of the Urantia book, The Messenger Host of Space. And let me mention, the slides are all on our website, 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship.com, which is at the end of this video. You can get the address. And if you go to that page, the very top link now on that page on the left is a link to the slide page I created just this week. And on that slide page, you'll find all the slide presentations that we have done so far. And one of them will be the Messenger Host of Space this week. So you can find them there, and you can find them at the bottom of the video also, underneath the video, so for your information. So let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Linda, would you like to pray tonight? I would ask Rodney, but I don't know if he can breathe good yet. Huh?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure can.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that you set aside for us each week to study this revelation. I thank you for everyone that is gathered here. I thank you for Roger and the efforts he's put into this. And I ask you to enlighten us all. Help us to understand what you'd like each of us to understand from this paper tonight. I pray that you will bless us and with us tonight and for the remainder of the week. Help us to stay warm, Father, as we stay at home, and adjust to the change in temperature. And we just thank you so much for this revelation that you've given us and that you've brought each and every one of us to in such a unique way. And we just pray that we would all understand what our purpose for knowing about this is and how we can carry this message forward and bring you glory and honor, Father. We love you and we pray these things in the name of your Son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Messenger Hosts of Space. And on the slides, as you slide through the first few slides, you're going to see a diagram of the Messenger Host of Space from Don Estes' book. From Don Estes' website. So that's what I have up here on the screen, if you can see it behind me. Is my video coming through tonight, y'all, on Skype?
Yeah, I can see you moving, and I see something pink and blue behind you.
Pink and blue, okay.
It does look pink and blue on the screen.
It does on that screen, doesn't it?
Turquoise.
Okay, that's the best I can get it, unfortunately. So,
The video on the audio tonight is better than usual.
Yeah, I have it plugged directly in. When I use this on Sundays, I have to use the wireless, and we had such issues Sunday staying connected. I thought I'd try the wired connection tonight, see if we don't have a little better luck.
It's working good.
Yeah. Okay, well let's get going here. Messenger Host to Space, paper 25, paragraph 1. Let's get started. Let's see. You want to start out, dear?
Okay. The messenger host. Okay. The messenger host to space, ranking intermediately in the family of the infinite spirit, are the messenger hosts of space. These versatile beings function as the connecting links between the higher personalities and the ministering spirits. The messenger hosts include the following order of celestial beings: 1. Havona Servitals. 2. Universal Conciliators. 3. Technical Advisors. 4. Custodians of Records on Paradise. 5. Celestial Recorders. 6. Morontia Companions. 7. Paradise Companions.
Go ahead and hit the rest of that too.
Okay.
Of these 7.
Of the 7 groups enumerated, only 3 Servitals, Conciliators, and Morontia Companions are created as such. The remaining 4 represent attainment levels of the angelic orders. In accordance with inherent nature and attained status, the messenger hosts variously serve in the universe of universes, but always subject to the direction of those who rule the realms of their assignment.
Okay, so what we're talking about here are those beings that are basically messengers for the Infinite Spirit, aren't we? Okay, these are in the family of the Infinite Spirit. Okay, and they have other functions other than just being messengers, but they are part of the messenger host core. Okay, and what they do is they connect the connecting link between the higher personalities, like the Infinite Spirit, the seven supreme executives, the seven master spirits, and that sort of thing, down through all the local all the way down to the local universe. Now you'll notice here in this group of the list they gave us, these are beings that start from all the way from Havona and come all the way down to the mansion worlds, don't they? And that's the Morontia companions. All right. And it goes on to tell us that of the 7 groups, the servitals, the conciliators, conciliators, the Morontia companions are created as such, and the remaining 4, okay, are attained levels of angelic orders. In other words, these are angels that have taken on these jobs, the jobs of let's see, technical advisors would be one, custodians of records would be one, celestial recorders, and paradise companion. Those 4 are angels that have attained this level and this status to do these jobs. So those are angels that's converted into these jobs, really. Okay? So let's keep going here. Let's start out with our Havona servitals. So let me move this one down too at the same time, and we can see the picture. Okay. Linda, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. Number 1, the Havona servital. Though dominated servitals, these midway creatures of the central universe are not servants in any genial sense of the word. In the spiritual world, it is interesting as being no worker. High service is sacred and exhilarating, neither do the higher orders of beings look down upon the lower orders of existence.
Okay, before I go on, I see Suzanne is online here. Let me see if she'd like to join us.
Who is Suzanne?
She's joined us before from California.
She's a friend of Elizabeth's.
Uh-huh. See if she'd like to join us. If not, that's fine. She can always just hang up if she doesn't. Okay. Let me know if you see Elizabeth out there too, dear. She might pop in here in a minute. Suzanne may just be on the computer too. Okay. So the Havona servitals, they're denominated servitals, okay, and they consider them much like the midway creatures of the central universe, in the sense that every 4th one, which we're going to learn in the next slide, I think it is, are created on a more physical level, so they can actually work just like the midway creatures to contact more material type beings. All right. And it goes on to tell us that there is no such thing as menial work in the super universe, right? So regardless of what job you take on, whether you're a servital or a companion or whatever it might be, all jobs are important because they do a service for the Father, right? And on my right here, the next slide is a little picture of the Havona servitals, okay? And it says, we're going to go on into that in just a minute. Let me go on. All right, Mildred, Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. The Havona servitals are the joint creative work of the 7 master spirits and their associates, the 7 supreme power directors. This creative collaboration comes the nearest to being the pattern for the long list of reproductions of the dual order in evolutionary universes, extending from the creation of a bright and morning star by the Creator-Sun Creative Spirit liaison down to sex procreation on the worlds like Urantia.
Okay, and I have a picture of this to the right of to the next slide.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. So, what these beings are they are beings from a union between the 7 master spirits and their associates and the 7 supreme power directors, right? And it's the same sort of union that creates everything down from the bright and morning star by the
Somebody
creator.
from Provo, Utah.
By the Creator Son and the Creative Mother Spirit. So it's the same process that the 7 Master Spirits and the 7 Supreme Power Directors use to create these servitals. Okay, so they're the children of the 7 Master Spirits and the 7 Supreme Power Directors, even though they're in line with the Infinite Spirit's children, right? They do this through the power of the Infinite Spirit. Okay, so this is the way of reproduction of beings of this type in the universe. And that's what this picture shows, the next slide. It shows the 7 power directors, supreme power directors, and the 7 master spirits, and the union of those two creates tons and tons of Havona servitals. Now you'll notice on the picture also that 3 of them are a light white color, and the 4th one's kind of a yellow color. And we're going to learn about that in just a minute. That's the one that's the closest to the physical orders. Okay, so every 4th one is more on a physical pattern than the others. Okay, so let's keep going. All right. Rodney, would you take the next paragraph?
I sure will. You guys bear with me now.
Okay, take your time.
Don't say that.
That's okay, Ron.
Okay, the number of servitals is prodigious. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
And more are being created all the time. They appear in groups of 1,000 on the 3rd moment following the assembly of the Master Spirits and the Supreme Power Directors at their joint area in the far northerly sector of Paradise. Every 4th servital is more physical in type than the others. That is, out of each 1,000, 750 are apparently true to spirit type, but 250 are semi-physical in nature. These 4th creatures are somewhat on the order of material beings, parenthesis, material in the Havana sense, close parenthesis, resembling the physical power directors more than the master spirits.
Okay, so this tells us a couple things. So out of every 4 that's created, the 4th is semi-material, in using the material of Havona, of course, right? And also they resemble more the physical power directors than the master spirits. Okay, now why would that be? Wouldn't it make more sense that the power directors are a more physical type being than the master spirits are, right? Because the master spirits are in essence have to do more with spiritual matters, okay? Where the master spirits the power directors have to do with physical matter, don't they? They're the ones that take care of the gravity circuits and everything physical in the universe. Okay, so it would make sense that they would be more of a physical type nature than the master spirits are. So that's why it says here, resembling the physical power directors more than the master spirits. Do y'all see that?
Exactly.
That's what they're talking about there. They're more on a physical line than the pure spirit of the of the master spirits, right? Okay. Which is kind of interesting. You don't think of things being more physical than Havona, do you? Okay. Oh, the and that next picture I was talking about here is showing the master spirits and the power directors coming together. And remember, on the third moment, they said on the third moment, then appears the four Havona servitals in groups of 1,000.
I was
Okay.
supposed to be able to see this picture you're talking about.
If you have the slides, it's the next.
I only have one computer, and you're on it. I don't have
Oh,
the
okay.
slides.
Well, you won't see that, but you can go back and look at them later, Millie, if you want to. Okay? You might see it behind us there. I got it on the screen behind us, but you may not be able to make that out either.
No, that's not possible.
Okay, well, you can look at the video later and you'll be able to see them behind me here. Okay, they come out real well on the video. So the people at home will know what I'm talking about, and you can look at it again. All right. Actually, it's a good idea to listen to these meetings again. You know what I did today, y'all? I listened to our 9th meeting of the Universe Reality meetings we had before the forward, and I really enjoy listening to it again. You know, I hadn't listened to it in quite a while, but we had some good meetings back then. Made me think of you, Rodney, because I saw you walking across at one point. But anyway, okay, 25:1-4.
In personality relationships, the spiritual is dominant over the material, even though it does not now so appear on Urantia. And in the production of Havona servitals, the law of spirit dominance prevails. The established ratio yields 3 spiritual beings to 1 semi-physical.
Okay, so that's what we just talked about just a second ago. So for every 4 beings that's created, 3 of them are totally spiritual, and the 4th one is semi-material, right?
It leads you to believe that physical reality is like a quarter of existence.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it, kind of, Rodney? It also kind of indicates the importance of the physical also, because even they talk about their material in the Havona sense. So we know that Havona has a totally different material than the rest of the universe, right? So they're probably made out of absolutum, or the type of material they use in Havona, but they're still of a physical nature, right?
It's
So,
still physical, although it's a different type.
of physical. That's right. That's right. All right. Okay. Let's keep going. Linda, would you take the next one?
The newly created servitals, together with newly appearing graduate guides, all pass through the courses of training which the senior guides continuously conduct on each of the 7 Havona circuits. Servitals are then assigned to the activities which they are best adapted, and since they are of 2 types, spiritual and semi-physical, there are limits to the range of work these versatile beings can do. The higher or spirit groups are assigned selectively to the services of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, and to the work of the 7 Master Spirits. In large numbers, they are dispatched from time to time to serve on the study world in the circulating the headquarters of the 7 super-universes, the worlds devoted to the final training and spiritual culture of the ascending souls of time, while preparing for advancement to the circuits of Havona. Both spirit servitals and their more physical fellows are also designated assistants and associates of the graduate guides in helping and instructing the various orders of ascending creatures who have attained Havona and who seek to attain paradise.
Okay, so we can see from this paragraph, these servitals' job is what? To help us out as we go through Havona. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? Like the graduate guides who guides us from world to world and into paradise, right? They go along with us and make sure we understand things. They train us and that sort of stuff, right? As we pass through the Havona the Havona circuits, right? And they are assigned to the services, it says here, of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, and to the work of the seven master spirits, right? And each one of them are special for those particular subjects, like the Father, the Son, or the Spirit, or the seven master spirits as you go through the training on the Havona circuits, right? Basically, they help instruct us as we go higher and higher through the Havona circuit. Does that make sense? Okay. And the next picture I had was showing the Havona servitals on the Havona circuits along with the senior guides, the graduate guides. Okay? And we're going to learn a little bit more about them too. Okay? Let's see. Millie, would you take the next paragraph?
Yes. The Havona servitals and the graduate guides manifest a transcendent devotion to their work and a touching affection for one another. An affection which, while spiritual, you could only understand by comparison with the phenomenon of human love. There is divine pathos in the separation of the servitals from the guides, as so often occurs when servitals are dispatched on missions beyond the limits of the central universe. But they go with joy and not with sorrow. The satisfying joy of high duty is the eclipsing emotion of spiritual beings. Sorrow cannot exist in the face of consciousness of divine duty, faithfully performed, period. And when man's ascending soul stands before the
We lost you, Millie.
quantitative achievements, the verdict reverberating through the high courts declares, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few essentials. You shall be made ruler over universe realities."
We didn't catch all that.
We lost you about half of that paragraph. Let me just go over the part we lost here. When man's soul stands before the supreme judge, the decision of eternal import will not be determined by material successes or quantitative achievements. The verdict reverberating through the high courts declares, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That's where you pick back up again. You have been faithful over a few essentials. You may be made ruler over universe realities. You notice this same statement as we go through the universe. That's what they say that Jesus says to us when we stand before Him, doesn't it? "Well done, my good and faithful servant," right? And then here it happens again, right? I guess when you stand before the Ancients of Days and as you go through the judgment down from level to level, right? Okay, another thing it mentions in this paragraph is about the servitals and the graduate guides. And they have such a touching affection for one another, and they call this love divine pathos. Do y'all know what that means?
No, I don't.
Okay, when they talk about pathos, they're talking about a higher love than a human love. They're talking about a spiritual devotion or a spiritual love, okay? A godly love. And that's what they're talking about here. In other words, they love each other so much, in essence, they almost hate to part from one another. But the joy of going out on and doing the Father's business is so overwhelmingly joyful, it takes the place of this sadness from parting from one another. Okay? So it's a higher form of love. Does that make sense to everyone?
That's what pathos means.
Yeah, divine pathos, or a spiritual love. Okay?
A love that we don't understand.
A love that we don't understand yet. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Why did my sound go away?
I am not sure yet. I have this slide in the wrong place, but that's okay. 275. We'll come back to it. I'll leave it up until we get to it. Alright, let's go to the next. I don't know, you kind of bleeped out. It may just been your connection for just a minute, Millie.
I haven't moved anything.
Yeah, it's probably just the connection more likely. It could be the Skype connection too. All right.
I noticed Linda blends in and out, fades in and out. But I just thought that was her moving.
Yeah, it may have been something, the same problem.
Moving away from her speaker.
Yeah, maybe the same problem we had with you. Just
But I wasn't moving. I was just sitting still.
well, no, it's probably the Skype more likely. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Would you take the next one, Jim? Oh no, Rodney. Would you take the next? I'm sorry. I'm getting
Oh, yeah,
it.
sure, no problem. On Super Universe service, the Havana servitors were always assigned to that domain presided over by the Master Spirit, whom they most resemble in general and special spirit prerogatives. They serve only on the educational worlds surrounding the capitals of the 7 super universes. And the last report of Uversa indicates that almost 138 billion servitors were ministering on its 490 satellites. Holy cow. They engage in an endless variety of activities in connection with the work of these educational worlds, comprising the super universities of the super universe of Orvonton. Here, they are your companions. They have come down from your next career to study you and to inspire you with the reality and certainty of your eventual graduation from the universes of time to the realms of eternity. And in these contexts, the servitors gain that preliminary experience of ministering to the ascending creatures of time, which is so helpful in their subsequent work on the Havana circuits as associates of the graduate guides, or as translated servitors, as graduate guides themselves.
Okay, so by helping you go from basically from the super universes into Havona, they prepare themselves as translated servitors or graduate guides themselves for work on Havona. Okay, in Havona. Yeah. So they are training themselves and training you at the same time in the super universes, right? In the 7 super universes. And it says here that the servitors basically resemble more of the, where was it here? The Master Spirit which created them, right? So if you have a servitor from Master Spirit number 7 of Orvonton, then he is going to resemble that Master Spirit more than the other Master Spirits, right? And that's probably because that Master Spirit, we will associate ourselves more with that one than any other one. Does that make sense?
Roger, when you say resemble, are you talking about surely not physical?
No, it'd be more of a spiritual personality type thing.
Personality, okay.
Right. Okay. And let me read this from, and we're going to come across it here in a minute, but I have this a slide right before this, and I wanted to mention it before we go on. It's in the wrong place, but that's okay. I do want to mention this because we're talking about the Havana servitors. It says this: if in the creation of servitors, Master Spirit number 7 should take the initiative, none but the reflective spirits of the 7th order would become pregnant, get this, with conciliators, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and concurrently with the creation of 1,000 Orvonton-like servitors, okay? 1,000 of the 7th order conciliators would appear on each of the super universe capital. And we're going to talk about that too. But also, do you notice it says here that the reflective spirit of the 7th order would become pregnant? You got that? with conciliators and the servitals. Isn't that interesting? Little bitty eggs and then they're grown as full-fledged being, right? Okay, and we're going to come back to this slide in a minute as we get to them. But I wanted to mention that before we get off the servitals here. Okay, because we're going right into the universal conciliators now. Okay?
The universal conciliators. For every Havonus servitor created, 7 universal conciliators are brought into being, 1 in each super-universe. This creative enactment involves a definite super-universe technique of reflective response to transactions taking place on Paradise.
Okay? So for every Havonus servitor, 7 universal conciliators are brought into being. So it's 1 to 7, right? Okay, now keep that in mind. We're going to keep going here, and this is going to all come together in a second. All right. Linda, would you take the next one?
Sure. On the headquarters worlds of the 7 super-universes, there function the 7 reflections of the 7 master spirits. It is difficult to undertake to portray the nature of these reflected spirits to material minds. They are true personalities. So each member of the super-universe group is reflective just one of the 7 master spirits. And every time the master spirits associate themselves with the power directors for the purpose of creating a group of Havona servitals, there is a simultaneous focalization upon one of the reflective spirits in each of the super-universe groups. And forthwith and full-fledgedly, an equal number of universal conciliators appears on the headquarters worlds of the super-creations. If, in the creation of servitals, Master Spirit number 7 should take the initiative, none but the reflective spirits of the 7th order would become pregnant with conciliators. And concurrently, with the creation of 1,000 or Vonton-like servitals, 1,000 of the 7th order conciliators would appear on each super-universe capital. Out of these episodes, reflecting the 7-fold nature of the Master Spirits, arise the 7 created orders of conciliators serving in each.
We got several things going on here that's important. Okay, this is what I just talked about in the slide. First is the reflective spirit. There's a reflective spirit that's a representation of each of the 7 super universes, right? Of that master spirit. Now that is the one that becomes pregnant, right, in that particular universe. And so what it becomes pregnant with is an equal number of 7 each time it does, and the universal universal conciliators, but also the Havona servitals. Okay, so here we go. Concurrently with the creation of 1,000 Arvontan-like servitals, we have 1,000 of the 7th order conciliators appearing on the super universe capital. So for every 1,000 of the conciliators, you have over 1,000 of the Havona servitals, right? And they appear on the super universe. Now, interesting part about this is this involves what? The reflective spirit. That's another function of reflectivity. Do you see that? You know, we talked about Majeston being the chief of reflectivity, and this is the communication network for spiritual messages throughout the entire super universe, isn't it? And they reflect through these 7 reflective spirits, don't they? But this is another function of those reflective spirits. There's Elizabeth. Let me see if she wants to join us here.
The first paragraph says, for every Havona servitor created, 7 universal conciliators are brought into being. But this says, in each of forthwith fully fledged equal number of universe conciliators appears. An equal number. It doesn't say 7 more than, it says an equal number.
No, they're talking, all right, what they're talking about in the first part of that, though, is the 7 super universes. Okay? So, when one of them from one super universe, that's the breakdown. That's the different, Millie. One of them is talking about all 7 of the reflective spirits, and the other one is not. Okay, You follow me? So it's like 7 times 7 almost. You think about it. 49, right? So that's the difference in that paragraph there. She hasn't answered yet. Okay, so these appear on the super universe capital, which would be where? Uversa, right? For service there. Okay. Let's keep going. Millie, would you take the next one? Conciliators of pre-paradise status?
Conciliators of pre-paradise status do not serve interchangeably between superuniverses, being restricted to their native segments of creation. Every superuniverse core, embracing 1/7 of each created order, therefore spends a very long time under the influence of one of the master spirits, to the exclusion of the others, for while all 7 are reflected on the superuniverse capitals, only one is dominant in each supercreation.
Okay, so they only serve in 1/7 of the super universe, don't they? That's what they're talking about. Of the pre-paradise status, right? And then they go on and, okay. Yeah, then because they're restricted to their native segment of creation. So if they were created in super universe number 7, they would be restricted to serve in super universe number 7, wouldn't they? For a very long time under the master spirit that created them, right? And that makes them a dominant for that super creation. You see that? So they get the personality, I guess the reflection of that 7th master spirit. Okay. Let's keep going. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Starting with each, right?
Yeah, each of the 7
Each of
creations.
the 7 super creations is actually pervaded by that one of the master spirits who presides over its destinies. Each super universe thus becomes like a gigantic mirror reflecting the nature and character of the supervising master spirit. And all of this is further continued in every subsidiary local universe by the presence and function of the creative mother spirits. The effect of such an environment upon evolutionary growth is so profound that in their post-super universe careers, the conciliators collectively manifest 49 experiential viewpoints or insights, each angular, hence incomplete, but all mutually compensatory and together tending to encompass the circle of supremacy.
Okay, so here we go with the reflection stuff again. Okay, so it starts out talking about that the 7 super creation is pervaded by that one master spirit, and ours would be what? The master spirit number 7, which is Arvanten, right? All right, and each super universe becomes a gigantic mirror reflecting the nature and character of the supervising master spirit. Now, can you see why that would be? All these beings that's being created by them has the same personality traits, or is reflective of that master spirit, right? And this stays true all the way down to the creative mother spirits. Okay, so that creative mother spirits gets the reflection of that 7 master spirit constantly, doesn't it? Okay, but what it goes on to say, the post-super universe careers of the conciliators collectively manifest 49 experiential viewpoints or insights, each angular, hence incomplete. So they get the reflective insights of all 7 super universe through this reflectivity. Do you see that?
Right.
Okay. So, but they're then it goes on to say, by doing this, it's mutually compensatory, and together tending to encompass the circle of supremacy. Now, while they are mostly influenced by the seventh master spirit, they get the viewpoints of the other seven master spirits, don't they? But their forte will be in the universe that they came from. Do you see that? Okay, so it works both ways. It helps them out both ways. So they get the whole circle of supremacy, or God the Supreme, the experience through this reflectivity process. All right.
In each super-universe, the universe conciliatories find themselves strangely and innately segregated into groups of 4, associations in which they continue to serve. In each group, 3 are spirit personalities, and 1, like the 4th creatures of the servitals, is a semi-material being. This quartet constitutes a conciliating commission and is made up as follows.
Okay, so get this in your head. The conciliators, as they're creative, are segregated in groups of 4, just like what? The servitals, right? All right, and this is the plan for these. All right, the first one is Linda. Now remember, there's 4 of these guys. Okay.
Okay. Number 1, the judge arbiter, the one unanimously designated by the other 3 as the most competent and best qualified to act as judicial head of the group. Can you keep going?
Yes. No. Let's hang on. Let me make a comment about that. Give me 1 second. Okay. So first we have a judge arbiter. Okay. And he is elected head of these 4 beings. Okay. Get that in your concept first. And I've put up a picture behind me which y'all can't see, but you can look at later in the slides. Millie, would you take the next one?
Turn my speaker on. 2 is the spirit advocate, the one appointed by the judge arbiter to present evidence and to safeguard the rights of all personalities involved in any matters assigned to adjudication of the conciliating commission.
Now, who would you think of this being like? Just like an attorney, wouldn't you? He represents the personalities that this commission is making a decision on, don't they? So the second person is basically a spirit advocate. So if you had an issue, this would be the being that would take up your rights, wouldn't it? It's your attorney. Okay? You can think of it that way. All right?
He's the defense.
He's the defense. That's right. Okay?
He's the prosecutor.
That's the next one. Rodney, would you take up?
A prosecutor, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a prosecutor, it's an executioner.
Yeah.
There's a difference there, people.
Yeah, but he works both jobs, probably.
3, that doesn't make sense. The divine executioner.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about this in a second.
Oxymoron there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the conciliatory qualified by inherent nature to make contact with the material beings of the realms and to execute the decisions of the commission. Divine executioners, being 4th creatures, quasi-material beings, are almost, but not quite, visible to a short-range vision of the mortal races.
Okay, now y'all remember, I think it was last week or the week before, we talked about, in paper 1, when we were looking up who wrote paper 1, right underneath it we came upon these divine executioners. You remember that? Anybody?
Solitary messengers. The solitary messengers.
Solitary messengers can be divine executioners also, right? Now this is the same sort of thing. These divine executioners basically carry out whatever decision this commission makes. Okay? You got that? the divine executioner, which is the same type of being as a solitary messenger assigned by the Ancients of Days, when you're found insolvent, it's a divine executioner goes out and removes your life force. Okay?
Who brings charges? Who's
This
saying
is
that you did something wrong?
well. This is a these beings take on problems in the super universes that have lasting import. Okay, they usually are probably not related to survival of mortals. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Or survival of beings. But it's the divine executioner that carries out these orders. Now, it's also a divine executioner along the same line that the Ancients of Days uses to go, basically, they call it a divine executioner, I believe it was, that removes your life force. Okay? But it's a different type of being. It's not this being, but it's a different type of being.
Would this be where Lucifer was judged?
If Lucifer was judged, it may be a divine executioner that goes and picks him up. You know, we don't know. Right?
So, this is a reaper.
It's a reaper in a sense, yeah. But they have the ability to bring forth any being into the basically the appearance in front of this referee trio. Okay? It's part of the judging body of the universe, right? That's why they say a commission functions as a group of three, since the advocate is detached during adjudication, participates in the formation of the verdict, only the conclusion of the hearing. Hence, these commissions are sometimes called referee trios. Okay? They're three beings, even though there's four involved, because one is a spirit advocate. Okay? So, the judge arbiter, the recorder, and the divine executioner makes the decisions, right? The spirit advocate takes on the case for you, right? Like a judge, like a attorney. Okay? All right.
4. The recorder. The remaining member of the commission automatically becomes a recorder, the clerk of the tribunal. He makes certain that all records are properly prepared for the archives of the super universe and for the records of the local universe. If the commission is serving on an evolutionary world, a third report, with the assistance of the executioner, is prepared for the physical records of the system government of jurisdiction.
Okay, so what kind of case would these guys normally take on? Let's think of this for a second. Okay,
I haven't a clue.
these would be beings that, let's say you had a local planet that was being administered by someone like Caligastia, right? Okay, and someone brings charges up against him that he was in contempt of the universe government. Okay, not stepped into rebellion yet, in contempt. And so someone could bring up a charge, they could send...
Who could bring up a charge?
Well, let's say one of the lieutenants of Caligastia, okay? Because we know that Caligastia had Dalagastia, didn't they? Another Lenonendek son. So if Dalagastia would have, when Caligastia started to rebel, if Dalagastia would say, hey, wait a minute, this is not right, he could have called in one of these conciliatory commissions, okay? And they would have had to made a decision of what Caligastia was doing. If he was found guilty of rebellion, then it would be kicked up to the higher court, right? Which would be before the Ancients of Days. You follow me? Mm-hmm. That's where these kind of commissions would come in. They would come in and make decisions on matters that were not related to permanent destruction of a soul or of a being. Okay? They don't have that power. Only Ancients of Days has that power. But they could take on, disagreements of administrative personnel or other beings and make a decision on that, and then the divine executioner would make sure that that decision was carried out. Okay? That makes sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a lower court, in essence. Right? I muddied the water or made it a little clearer?
Well, the word divine executioner is what muddies it. He executes the orders.
He executes the order.
People.
He doesn't execute people. He only
executes the orders.
he executes the orders. That's why he's called a divine executioner. He follows out the decisions of a governing body. He doesn't do it on his own. Okay? All right? Executes the orders. Okay. Let's keep going. Linda, I think, was next.
Are we on the paragraph that begins with when?
Yeah, when in session.
Okay, when in session, a commission functions as a group of three, since the advocate is detached during adjudication and participates in the formulation of the verdict only at the conclusion of the hearing. Hence, these commissions are sometimes called referee trios.
Okay, so that makes sense, doesn't it? All right. Let's keep going. Millie, would you take the next one?
The conciliators are of great value in keeping the universe of universes running smoothly. Traversing space at the seraphic rate of triple velocity, they serve as the traveling courts of the worlds. Commissions devoted to the quick adjudication of minor difficulties. Were it not for these mobile and eminently fair commissions, the tribunals of spheres would be hopelessly overspread with the minor misunderstandings of the realms.
So you see how these work as the lower courts? Okay, for disagreements. Administrative disagreements are disagreements among the beings that are in charge of the administration of the super universe. Okay? And let's go on to the next one, and this is what we were just talking about.
Roger, I'm just wondering, the triple velocity, that just means 3 times a normal seraphic.
Yeah, 3 times normal seraphic transport, and I can't quote that exactly. Seems like to me it was something around 550-some thousand miles per second.
A little different than the old judges in the Old West, where they had judges that moved from town to town.
Right.
They saved all their cases so the judge came to town.
Yeah, something like that. Traveling judges, right? All right. Rodney, you want to take the next one, the referee trios?
Okay. These referee trios do not pass upon matters of eternal import. The soul, the eternal prospects of a creature of time, is never placed in jeopardy by their acts. Conciliators not deal with questions extending beyond the temporal existence and the cosmic welfare of the creatures of time. But when a commission has once accepted jurisdiction of a problem, its rulings are final and always unanimous. There is no appeal from the decision of the judge arbiter.
Okay, so this is a really important paragraph. You see here that these commissions do not pass on the matter of the soul. Do you see that?
That is important.
They do not make decisions relating to human survival or being survival or anything along that line.
It
Right?
is more political, right?
Pardon, it's more political, that's right. It's more a decision about the proper procedure of running a universe, keeping it outside of rebellion, that sort of thing, right? So they try to fix problems before they actually become too much of a problem.
Yeah, so it's not really a person.
That's right, that's right. All right. So let's keep going. That makes sense. So they don't decide on permanency of existence. You got me on that? Okay.
3. The far-reaching service of conciliators. Conciliators maintain group headquarters on the capital of their super-universe, where their primary reserve corps is held. Their secondary reserves are stationed on the capitals of the local universes. The younger and less experienced commissioners begin their service on the lower worlds, worlds like Urantia, and are advanced to the adjudication of greater problems after they have acquired riper experience.
Okay, so the capitals on the headquarters worlds, aren't they? Okay. but they get their experience on planets like ours, right? If we could see them and they were taking care of what was going on in this planet, they would be busy little bees, wouldn't they? Here, right? Okay. Linda, would you take the next one?
Yes. Okay, tell me where we are. I'm sorry.
The Order of Conciliator.
The order of
Conciliators is wholly dependable.
The order of conciliators is wholly dependable. Not one has ever gone astray. Though not infallible in wisdom and judgment, they are of unquestioned reliability and unerring in faithfulness. They take origin on the headquarters of the super-universe and eventually return there too, advancing through the following levels of universe service.
Okay, and let's go through the service here. They never go astray, so they don't have to worry about them going into rebellion, do they? All right. Millie, would you take the next one? Conciliators to the worlds?
Conciliators to the worlds. Whenever the supervising personalities of the individual worlds becomes greatly perplexed or actually deadlocked concerning the proper procedure under existing circumstances, and if the matter is not of sufficient importance to be brought before the regular constituted tribunals of the realm, then upon the receipt of a petition of two personalities, one from each contention, the conciliating commission will begin to function forthwith.
Okay, so let's take an example of this. Let's say that Dalagastia and one of the heads of the 100, Caligastia 100, had issue with something Caligastia did, right? They could file a petition with the conciliators to ask them to make a decision about it. You see what I'm talking about now? So that this sort of thing could help a being or a world from going into what? Rebellion, because of some decision this commission makes. Okay? And that's why these sort of things can be important. These are normally administrative things they're talking about here. Okay? And I have a picture.
So most likely during the rebellion they actually were used.
More than likely. They more than likely, and they made a decision. You know, it's kind of like, remember when, who was it, Amadon requested a ruling,
Mm-hmm.
and the decision got stuck in the circuits. You know, remember that?
Yeah.
That was probably along the same line of this, if you think about it, right? Because he saw things were going wrong, so he said, hey, something's wrong here. So he sends a request out, and because the circuit goes down, he never got the answer to his request. He didn't find out that he did the right thing till after, what was it?
2 or 3 years.
7 years, wasn't it?
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years before he actually found out. So that's the sort of things these things could do. Okay? Let's keep moving.
but not perfect.
Huh?
That's not
Not
perfect.
perfect.
No, nothing's well, not in the local universes anyway. Okay, let's keep going. I think it's Rodney's next. Rodney, would you take the next one?
When these administrative and jurisdictional difficulties have been placed in the hands of the conciliators for study and
Adjudication.
adjudication, they are supreme in authority, but they will not formulate a decision until all the evidence has been heard, and there is absolutely no limit to their authority to call witnesses from anywhere and everywhere. While their decisions may not be appealable, sometimes matters so develop that the Commission closes its records at a given point, concludes its opinions, and transfers the whole question to the higher tribunals of the realm.
How about that? So they can decide that the decision is above their pay grade, as they say, right?
Right.
And kick it up to the higher tribunals. Do you see that?
Send it to the Supreme Court.
Send it to the Supreme Court, if you would. That's right. Okay.
The commissioner's decisions are placed on the planetary records and, if necessary, are put into effect by the divine executioner. His power is very great, and the range of his activities on an inhabited world is very wide. Divine executioners are masterful manipulators of that which is in the interest of that which ought to be. That's interesting. Their work is sometimes carried out for the apparent welfare of the realm, and sometimes their acts on the worlds of time and space are difficult of explanation. Though executing decrees in defiance of neither natural law nor the ordained usage of the realm, they do oftentimes affect their strange doings and enforce the mandates of the conciliators in accordance with the higher laws of the system administration.
Okay, so everything they do is put on record, isn't it? Okay? And it goes on to say these divine executioners are masterful manipulators of that which is in the interest of that which ought to be. You can imagine what that could be, you know?
Yeah.
And
Field day with us, aren't they?
yeah, they would be. And they're carried out in apparent welfare of the realm. In other words, these may not be popular decisions, right? And it says, sometimes their acts on the worlds of time and space are difficult of explanation. So they may change something that we don't really understand. And then it goes on to say, though executing decrees in defiance of neither natural law nor ordained usage of the realm, they do strange doings and enforce the mandates of the conciliators and the laws of the higher administration. So they may manipulate things on a planet beyond our comprehension, right?
It could be why we haven't blown ourselves up yet.
That may be. It may very well be, right? These divine executioners may step in and say, right?
They send a solitary messenger whizzing across the universe.
And then in conjunction with a local midwayer, right, which can travel at enormous amounts of speed also, right? They could be in a location and stop us from doing something stupid really quickly, couldn't they?
Right.
Right? All right. Linda, would you take the next one?
Number 2, conciliatories to the system headquarters. From service on the evolutionary world, these commissions of 4 are advanced to duty on a system headquarters. Here they have much work to do, and they prove to be the understanding friends of men, angels, and other spirit beings. The referee trios are not so much concerned with personal differences as with good intentions and with misunderstandings arising between different orders of creatures, and on a system headquarters there live both spiritual and material beings as well as the combined types such as the material sun.
So they can make decisions that affect spiritual and material type beings, right? Including the material sons, right? Like the Adam and Eve's, right? On the system headquarters and on the planets themselves, right? So let's say we had an Adam on this planet that had a disagreement with the local planetary prince of that planet, right? A material son and daughter. Don't you think it would be something along these lines that they would referee a disagreement between those two, right? You can see how these can come in very handy, right?
It's arbitration.
It's kind of an arbitrator between the two, right? Alright, let's see, this is 2 conciliators. I have a picture that's interesting that y'all can look at later too of the conciliators of the system headquarters. And it shows on this how there are 4 advanced on duty on the system headquarters. And it goes on to say they have much work to do, and they prove to be understanding friends of men, angels, and other spirit beings. Okay? That's the next line. All right. Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. The moment the creators bring into existence evolving individuals with the power of choice, that moment of departure is made from the smooth working of divine perfection.
Really?
Yeah. Misunderstandings are certain to arise, and provision for a fair adjustment of these honest differences of viewpoint must be made. We should all remember that the all-wise, all-powerful creators could have made the local universes just as perfect as Havona. No conciliating commission need function in the central universe, but the Creator did not choose in their all-wisdom to do this. And while they have produced universes which abound in differences and teem with difficulties, they have likewise provided the mechanisms and means for composing all the differences and harmonizing all this seeming confusion.
Okay, so if you wonder why the 7 super universes aren't perfect like Havona, this is it, right? They've provided us with
They
these...
let us make a mess and they gave us mops and brooms and vacuum cleaners.
That's right. That's exactly right. You said it. You hit it on the head.
You got it, Billy.
All right, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay, number 3, the constellation conciliators. From service in the systems, the conciliators are promoted to the, how do you pronounce that again?
Adjudication.
Adjudication.
Adjudication of problems of the constellation, taking up the minor difficulties arising between its 100 systems of inhabited worlds. Not many problems developing on the constellation headquarters fall under their jurisdiction, but they are kept busy going from system to system, gathering evidence and preparing preliminary statements. If the contention is honest, if the difficulties arise out of sincere differences of opinion and honest diversity of viewpoints, no matter how few persons may be involved, no matter how apparently trivial the misunderstandings, a conciliating commission can always be had to pass on the merits of the controversy.
Okay, so not much happens in Adentia, right? That they can work on, but everywhere out from there, chaos, right? So they are kept busy. You know, they're like the traveling judges, as we said earlier. All
The
right,
circuit judge.
the circuit judge.
There comes the circuit judge.
That's right.
Become the judge.
All right.
4. Conciliators to the local universes. In this larger work of a universe, the commissioners are of great assistance to both the Melchizedeks and the magisterial sons, and to the constellation rulers and the host of personalities concerned with the coordination and administration of the 100 constellations. The different orders of seraphim and other residents of the headquarters spheres of a local universe also avail themselves of the help and decisions of the referee trios.
Okay, so it's not only the beings and the administration, it goes all the way down to what? The seraphim, right? So all beings use the services of these conciliators, right? Somebody has to be there to make the hard decisions. Okay? And that's what we're talking about. And this is a picture of the local universe and the conciliators of the local universe. Okay. All right. Linda, would you take the next one?
It is almost impossible to explain the nature of those differences that may arise in the detailed affairs of a system, a constellation, or a universe. Difficulties do develop, but they are very unlike the petty trials and travails of material existence, as it is lived in the evolutionary world.
Okay, so what they're saying is these problems that crop up aren't like our human disagreements, are they? They have a little bit more important to them.
Oh, I hope so.
Let's hope so, right? Millie, would you?
We could have used somebody to help shut down the government.
That's right. We could. We could use somebody to straighten it out completely, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, Adam and Eve, where are you?
Conciliators of the super universe and minor sectors, from the problems of local universes to the commissioners The commissioners are advanced to the study of questions arising in the minor sectors of the superuniverse. The further they ascend inward from the individual planets, the fewer are the material duties of the divine executioner. Gradually, he assumes a new role of mercy, justice, interpreter. At the same time, being quasi-material, keeping the commission as a whole in sympathetic touch with the material aspects of its investigations.
So his job kind of morphs as they go in, right? When you get to the minor sector, you're dealing more with what? First stage spirits, right? Second and first stage spirits. So his role would change. He would have to be less material than when he's dealing with beings on the local universe level, where you have material sons and daughters and Morancha beings, right? So the higher he goes, the less he becomes a executioner, more of a interpreter, right? Mercy, justice, interpreter.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
I've had a difficulty. I've got all these charts and maps that show me minor sectors, and I don't understand minor sectors, but I can understand that paragraph.
Okay. All right. Well, that helps then. All right. The minor sectors. If you can remember it, Millie, the local universe. There's hundreds and hundreds of local universes in a minor sector. Then there's hundreds and hundreds of minor sectors in a major sector. It goes on and on and on, and then there's like hundreds of major sectors in the super universe. So it's just a hierarchy is all it is, really. So it's the next step after you leave the local universe. If you can remember that helps a little bit, probably.
I'll figure it out if I get there.
Yeah. Okay. Conciliators of the super universe. Oops. Rodney, would you take that one?
Number 7.
No, 6.
Number 6. The
Yeah.
conciliators to the superuniverse, major sectors. The character of the work of the commissioners continues to change as they advance. There is less and less of misunderstanding to educate, and more of mysterious phenomena to explain and interpret. From stage to stage, they are evolving from arbiters of differences to explainers of mysteries, judges evolving into interpretive teachers, arbiters, those who through ignorance permit difficulties and misunderstandings to arise. They once were, but they are now becoming instructors of those who are sufficiently intelligent and tolerant to avoid clashes of mind and wars of opinions. The higher a creature's education, the more respect he has for the knowledge, experience, and opinions of others. Very true.
Okay, now there's a bunch in this paragraph that's really important, right? As we go from the minor sectors to the major sectors, right? These arbiters go from being more judges to what? Interpreters. Yeah, interpreters and teachers.
Mysterious phenomenon.
That's right. That's right. And why is that? Okay, this is the important part. This is very important about this paragraph is as creatures go higher, okay? And we get more education as we get to know each other more and as we experience more, right? We have more respect for other people's what? Knowledge, experience, and opinions. Does that make sense? So as we go higher, we have less things to clash about, don't we?
Exactly.
Because we start to understand each other better, right? And the little things that set off just like it does in this earth, you find out are of no importance whatsoever, right?
Matter in the end.
We could all learn lessons from this, couldn't we? In our daily lives. Most of the stuff we fight and clash about is not worth fighting about in the first place, right? All right, and then we have a picture of that. Conciliators on the universe. Okay, number 7, super universe. What you do?
Oh, okay. Well, zoned out, sorry. 7. Conciliators to the super universe. Here the conciliators become coordinate. 4 mutually understood and perfectly functioning arbiter teachers. The divine executioner is divested of retributive power and becomes the physical voice of the spirit trio. By this time, these counselors and teachers have become expertly familiar with most of the actual problems and difficulties encountered in the conduct of super-universe affairs. Thus they become wonderful advisors and wise teachers of the ascending pilgrims who are in residence on the educational spheres surrounding the headquarters worlds of the super-universes.
Okay, so by the time they get to the super universe, they really have become teachers, haven't they? Okay, and think about this. So how did they become certified to become these teachers? They've gone through all the problems from down in the local universe level all the way up to the whole super universe till they get to the realization of all problems that could happen from the beginning all the way to the end. And at that point, they step in as teachers of the ascending pilgrims, right? Experience. They help us learn, right?
I missed something somewhere. The divine executioner is divested of his retributive powers. I didn't hear anything about retribution further back.
Okay, well, even though he can't make decisions on permanent import, there is the thing along the line of a divine executioner. I wish I had that quote up. I wish I had the other side up. That there is a being like a divine executioner that can remember the life force, remove the life force from you, but these are not the ones that do that. Okay, but this retributive power is probably more along the line of manipulating physical matter. Okay, and when he gets to the super universe level, he no longer needs that. You follow me? Because the decisions he makes is going to be on the higher level, which will be more along the line of what? The spiritual level than the physical level. Okay, so he doesn't need the power to manipulate matter any longer, right? His decisions would not be related to that any longer. Okay? All right. Who's next?
I am.
Linda?
All conciliators serve under the general supervision of the Ancients of Days and under the immediate direction of the image aids until such time as they are advanced to paradise. During the paradise sojourn, they report to the Master Spirit, who provides a super universe of their origin.
Okay, now this is kind of important too. They serve under the general supervision of the Ancients of Days. Now, why would that be? Because it's only the Ancients of Days can make decisions relating to permanence of soul, of your soul and survival, right? So that's the hierarchy. And the immediate direction of the image age. Remember the reflective image age we talked about just a few minutes ago? So that would make sense until they're advanced to paradise. And under paradise, they report to the Master Spirit, who presides over the super universe of their origin. So they have a hierarchy just like we do. The most important part of this is the supervision of the Ancients of Days. So if they come across something that would be considered rebellion against the Father, would that not automatically be kicked up to the Ancients of Days? And that's why when we have a problem in a local universe and it's considered rebellion, or along that line, these conciliators will automatically kick it up to the next court, right? And they will kick it up to whom? The Ancients of Days. Everything has to be decided when it comes to survival of a being through the Ancients of Days. Okay? They're the only ones that have that power. Alright? Alright.
The
Nick.
Super Universe registries do not enumerate those conciliators who have passed beyond their jurisdiction, and such commissions are widely scattered through the grand universe. The last report of registry on Uversa gives the number operating in Orvanton as almost 18 trillion commissions, over 70 trillion individuals, but these are only a very small fraction of the multitude of conciliators that have been created in Orvanton. That number is of an altogether higher magnitude and is the equivalent of the total number of Havonis Sobatals, with allowances for the transmutation into graduate guides.
So there's a whole bunch of these commissions out there, aren't they?
Lots of them.
Lots of them. There's a lot of area to travel and a lot of area to oversee, isn't there? So the whole seventh super universe has lots of issues that need to be decided on, don't they? Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
From time to time, as the numbers of the super universe conciliators increase, they are translated to the Council of Perfection on Paradise, from which they subsequently emerge as the coordinating core evolved by the infinite spirit for the universe of universes, a marvelous group of beings which is constantly increasing in numbers and efficiency. By experiential ascent and paradise training, they have acquired a unique grasp of the emerging reality of the Supreme Being, and they roam the universe of universes on special assignment.
Okay, so some of these conciliators are translated. Do you see that? To the Council of Perfection on Paradise. So they go from what? Being a super universe conciliator to what? To the Council of Perfection on Paradise. All right? It's like a graduation. They're translated. They're changed. Okay? And that's because they've acquired this unique grasp of the reality, emerging of the reality of the Supreme Being. That's part of the experiential part of the Supreme Being, right? All right. So let's keep going.
The members of a I'm getting tired.
Conciliating.
The members of a conciliating commission are never separated. A group of four forever serve together just as they were originally associated. Even in their glorified service, they continue to function as quartets of accumulated cosmic experience and perfected experiential wisdom. They are eternally associated as the embodiment of the supreme justice of time and space.
So if they're translated, don't you think they're all translated at the same time? All four of them, right? They've earned that right of because of their cosmic experience, right? All right. Technical advisors. Linda?
Legal and technical minds of the spirit world were not created as such. The early Superfin and Omnifin, Fim, 1 million of the most oily minds were chosen by the infinite spirit as the nucleus of this vast and versatile group. And ever since that far distant time, actual experience in the application of the laws of perfection to the plans of evolutionary creation has been required of all who aspire to become technical advisors.
Okay. Now I have a chart under this first slide of the technical advisors, and I'm not going to go up over this, but y'all need to go out and look at this when you have time. It breaks down basically the hierarchy of the technical advisors all the way down to temporary members, which can be primary and secondary members and mortals. Okay, so this is something you might want to look at. All right, let's keep going. Okay, technical advisors are recruited from. Millie, would you take all the way all 7 of these, please? You there, Millie?
I'm back. Where are we?
The technical advisors are recruited.
Okay, the technical advisors are recruited from the ranks of the following personality orders. Number 1, the Supernum.
Supernafem. Yeah.
2, the Seconofem. 3, the
Tertiafem.
Tertiafem. 4, the Omniafem. 5, the Seraphim. 6, certain types of ascending mortals. And 7, certain types of ascending midwayers.
So as we go up through the ranks, we could be what? Technical advisors, couldn't we? Okay? Along with
anything's possible.
anything's possible. That's right. Depends on how technical you are and how much advice you got, right? Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
At the present time, not counting the mortals and midwayers, who are all of transit attachment, the number of technical advisors registered on Universa and operating in Orbanton is slightly in excess of 61 trillion.
So there's a whole lot of people giving advice, aren't there? 61 trillion. All right.
Technical advisors frequently function as individuals, but are organized for service and maintain common headquarters on the spheres of assignment in groups of 7. In each group, at least 5 must be of permanent status, while 2 may be of temporary association. Ascending mortals and ascending midway creatures serve on these advisory commissions while pursuing the Paradise Ascent, but they do not enter the regular courses of training for technical advisors, nor do they ever become permanent members of the order.
Why would that be? Because they're on the Paradise Ascent, right? And that's their primary goal, always, is that ascent to paradise, right? All right. Linda?
Those mortals and midwayers who serve transiently with advisors are chosen for such work because of their expertness in the concept of universal law and supreme justice. As you journey toward your paradise goal, constantly acquiring added knowledge and enhanced skill, you are continuously afforded the opportunity to give out to others wisdom and experience you have already accumulated. All the way into Havona, you enact the role of a people teacher. You will work your way through sending orders of this vast, experiential university by imparting to those just below you the newfound knowledge of your advancing career. In the universal regime, you are not reckoned as having possessed yourself of knowledge and truth until you have demonstrated your ability and your willingness to impart this knowledge and truth to others.
Okay, so what does that tell us? That tells us in order to demonstrate we have learned our lessons and we have learned the material we're supposed to learn, we have to show the ability to do what? Train others, right?
So like what you're doing for us, Roger.
That's right. You have to learn to teach others constantly, right? And that's the whole point of doing this together, isn't it? To teach ourselves how to go on and teach this material. Because don't you think when we get to the mansion world, there's going to be a plethora of individuals that get there that have no concept of any of this information on the organization of the universe, will they? So that'll be our part-time job right there, right? Along with preparing ourselves for the next steps, right? So
for whatever reason, this last sentence has been highlighted in my book. I've found that sentence before. It's always important.
That's right. You have to learn to impart your knowledge to others to advance on. Okay? And I'm going to quit there because it's 9 o'clock. So we'll take it up from there.
I had hoped we'd stop before we started 4 because...
Well, I'll tell you what. We can start at the beginning of 4.
Start at 4 next week.
Next week. That'll be fine. We can go back over that because this is pretty important. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, I enjoyed it. Let me stop the recording. Thank you for joining us. Please come and see us again. Let me stop the recording and we'll go from there.